Hello again, this is Mark Summers from Summers Technical Services. We're continuing on with our waveguide modeling series, and I forget where we're at. It looks like we're at the assembly model level, so we've done our part models, waveguide, flange, and pin. We've made an assembly. We've gone in and turned our good waveguide part and good flange part models into great models by making all the part configurations for the different waveguide sizes. And now we're going to pull them all together into a configuration assembly model for the waveguide assembly. We're going to use a similar strategy but with different parameters. And so let's get started. Alright, here's our assembly model we created earlier, previous session. And so what I need to do now is to go insert tables, design table, and make a design table for our assembly. Again, we're going to ignore all these fantastic options. We'll have to learn those in a later class, and just use a blank design table and say OK. And we get our little Excel spreadsheet popped up, and now we can create our design table similar to but different from the way we did the part configurations. So here's a spreadsheet that pops up. We're going to change this first instance to NRG. We're going to give it the name of our assembly model like that. And then we're going to add the particular configuration, which I want to start with the WR19 configuration. And again, to keep from making typographical errors, which I'm prone to do, we're going to make we're going to roll that down, and hopefully these numbers are all correct. These are all the different assembly configurations. This is what they're going to be called. And now I'll go back to cell B2, just like we did in the part configuration spreadsheet. And we're going to do $, instead of using $value, we're going to do $ configuration, all caps, at, and now we're going to put the name of the part we want to go grab a particular configuration for. And that's going to be, the first column will be NRG. There's our class. There's me. There's that. And we want the -01 part. The 01 part is a waveguide part. And so that's going to go, oh, somebody should have caught that. Let me know. Left off the G. So this is the base part that we're going to choose the configuration we want, depending on what configuration assembly we're in. And so I'm going to add to this, I've got to add a designation to tell SOLIDWORKS which instance I want to change. For the waveguide, you can see in the background here, here's my waveguide part on the tree. You notice that little 1 there inside those two caret bracket things? That's the instance number. And so I've got an instance number 1 for my waveguide. There's only one of them. But my flange, I've got two instances. I've got an instance 1 and an instance 2. And so I need to tell SOLIDWORKS which instance I want to configure. And in this case, there's just one of them, so I want to put a 1 there. And I want to roll that to the right and make another one that's called 03, because that's the flange. This is the column for the flange. And if I wanted to change those flanges independently of one another, I'd have to have a column for the instance 1 flange and another column for the instance 2. Well, there's no way I want to change one without the other, because they both have to fit to the same waveguide. And so instead of putting a 1 here and or a 2, I'm just going to put a wildcard, asterisk. That way it changes both of them. And I'm going to do my same Control-K click and get rid of that silly hyperlink. And I'll also do my little game here. Format cells, alignment, boom. That looks beautiful. Make it a little bigger. All right, so there is 0801, that's the waveguide. I'm going to do instance 1, and there's -03, that's the flange. I'm going to do both of them. Now, I could add a column for the pin, but think about it. How does the pin change on those different configurations? Well, it doesn't. So there's no need to put a column there because it's not changing. All right, so now I'm going to go pick which configuration I want. And what I want is NRG 36-00-08-01- for the WR19 assembly. I want the WR19 waveguide. And if you don't type that in correctly, then it's just going to be game over. It'll have an error message. So don't muck that up. Make sure you remember what you typed in. All right, so there's the first one, and I'm going to roll these down. And for the WR22 assembly, I want to use a WR22 waveguide. For the 28 assembly, I want the 28 waveguide, and on and on. There we go. Now I'm going to copy and paste that over here. Now I'm trying to figure out which one of these flanges I want to grab for each one of these separate assemblies. And so I want to change this to an 03. I want to grab the WR19 flange and the WR19 waveguide to make the WR19 assembly. And so it might be easier to roll these to the right and then change all of these to -3s. However you can reduce the typographical errors is a good thing, especially when you type as poorly as I do. All right, so let's double click on these headers and make these things so I can read it. All right, so you get the idea. That's the WR19 assembly. It needs to go grab, for instance 1 of the waveguide, it's going to grab the WR19 instance of the waveguide. For both flanges, it's going to go grab the WR19 flange to make the WR19 assembly. And so at this point, you cross your fingers and close out Excel. And then you look for that thing right there, and then you say what? You say, boom, baby. All of them got created. I come over here to the configuration manager, and they all magically showed up. And now I have all 5 configurations. All of the flanges and all the waveguides are changing together. So we spent 15 minutes. Instead of having one of the assemblies, we've got all the assemblies. And so this is golden. So that's it. So the only other thing we need to do is we need to add our gap. We'll talk about that in class, so don't forget to go ask me about how to add the gap, because you'll lose those points if you don't add the gap. And we'll talk about that in class. That'll be the flange model. We'll have to change the add the gap. So we'll talk about that in class. So otherwise, you know what to do to go from a good assembly model to a great assembly model. And the last step, we'll do the last video, will be showing us how to do an assembly drawing. It'll take about 3.5 minutes because all we have to do is push 5 buttons. We're going to push a button to start the assembly template. We're going to push a button to make all the views. We're going to push a button to show all the dimensions. We've already done the dimensions. You've already done the dimensions. All we're going to do is show them on the drawing. We push another button to make a bomb. We push another button to make the balloons. We save it and close it, and then go home. So that'll be the last video that'll come up next. So thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe so you get notifications on new videos. And until the next one, we'll see you then.